let's hop on it and talk. So it seems to me that this statement that I have up on the screen this morning uh, is somewhat timeless. And yet, in the market that we're in right now, seems to be coming up a little bit more frequently, at least in the conversations that I'm having with agents on our team and just agents around, around the region, around the country. And that just simply is that I think I'm going to wait. That something is prompting them in their life, in their finances, in the news cycle, in whatever else that is causing them to say, I think that I'm going to wait. So just in the chat, just real fast, when you guys were hearing that question, why are people telling, if you are in fact hearing this from buyers, from sellers, if you are in fact hearing this, why? Why are people saying that they're going to wait? What are the most common things that you're hearing when someone says, I think I'm going to wait? What is their reason behind wanting to wait to make a real estate decision right now? You guys can throw that in the chat. I think we all kind of know or have it in our heads what they are, because they tend to follow the same patterns over and over again. So like Ashley just put it in there, they're waiting for interest rates to drop. Okay, I think that's one that we hear a lot. We're going to kind of talk through how to combat that a little bit here today. The other things that we hear, well, I think about it this way. I put them into two buckets of why people wait. First and foremost, they're based on reasons, they're based on facts. So clearly, there are some people that right now, and by the way, I'm going to really get in the center of the conversation today on buyers, particularly. A lot of this stuff applies to both buyers and sellers. A lot of our buyers are also sellers. But as we go through today, I'm really just going to focus on why buyers say that I think I'm going to wait. Oh, I've got a typo. I have a typo on the top of that screen. Don't ignore that. I won't fixate on it. But I have a typo on the top of that screen. But they wait for one of two reasons. Either they have a legitimate reason. They're waiting for the promotion to happen. They're waiting for the kids to move out of the house. They're waiting to file their taxes. They're waiting for the inheritance to come in. There's a legitimate reason why moving forward right now just isn't an option for them. And that's great. We're not in the business of trying to talk somebody into something that's not in their best interest. By the way, we really can't talk anybody into doing anything that they don't want to do anyways. But as their consultants, as having fiduciary responsibility to these people, we do want what's best for them. And for some, the honest answer is they should wait. Now is not the right time for them. But then there's that other set of people that are just frozen because of emotions or because of opinions. And those things fall in the category more of I'm waiting for rates to drop, or saying that a little bit differently. I heard rates are going to drop. I've been told rates are going to drop. Or they say, I saw in the news that the market's going to crash. My uncle, my cousin, my buddy that once sold a house back in 1985, who knows everything about real estate, told me that we're going to have an economic crash and prices are going to plummet. Or they say, I'm waiting for the perfect home to come on the market. If the right one came on the market, I would buy that one. But if that perfect home, if that unicorn doesn't hit, then I'm just going to patiently wait. Does that resonate with anybody? Are those things that you've experienced in the past? And by the way, once upon a time, you probably said one of those things before you made a decision about buying a house. Maybe before you were in the business, or maybe even as a real estate agent or a loan professional, you had some similar thoughts around this. So again, there's some legitimate reasons, but at the same time, what if you've been around me for a while, you hear me say is that When there's friction, people get stuck. Friction causes people not to act. And us as real estate agents, as loan professionals, we need to get out our sandpaper and we just sand off those rough edges and smooth things out so that things can roll. We want to remove the friction and get them into movement under the assumption that it truly is in their best interest to take a step forward in real estate ownership. And you might want to write this down, because I have a couple of things, a couple of phrases that have always stuck in my head that I've heard from people much smarter than me in the past. But the first one is this: is that it's never the wrong time to buy the right piece of real estate, regardless of the market, regardless of the world economy, regardless of rates, regardless of what cousin Johnny said. It's never the wrong time to buy the right piece of real estate. That there are opportunities in every market, and there's reasons to move forward in every market. I think about something that I've heard Gary Keller say many times, and it has stuck with me, that when he was doing buyers consultations back in the day, when he was meeting with a buyer and having a conversation with them about, should I buy a home, he would ask them two questions to help decipher if they should buy a home. The first question was this: do you want to buy a home? Yes. Can you afford to buy a home? Yes. Well, if the answer to those two questions is both yes, then now is a good time to buy a house. Right? Do you want to? Can you afford to? And if you can pass those two tests in the affirmative, then the answer is now is a good time to buy. And I think just the simplicity of those two little nuggets is, it's never the wrong time to buy the right piece of real estate. And then followed up with, if you have the desire to buy and you have the ability to buy, then now is the right time to buy. Because we all know as real estate professionals that over the course of time, real estate ownership is probably, if not, well, besides if you bought crypto 20 years ago, but besides some one-offs, real estate ownership is the greatest path to wealth. And the people that end up waiting almost certainly kick themselves into the future. So I want to spend some time today working on both some reasons to get people to move and some emotions to get people to move. So I think about it this way: is the statement at the top here, is our job in this space, trying to take away the friction points, is turning hesitancy into informed confidence. We want to take away people's fear and apprehension by giving them confidence, by giving them the information they need in order to take action. So I'm going to put it through these lenses here. First and foremost, let's just talk about appreciation. Is that we all know this, but it is giving the example in front of folks that says that if you look at the history of real estate, let's just go back over the last 30 years. We go back over 50 years. We go back as far as we want. But the historical average of the appreciation of real estate, if we go nationwide, is 4% per year. Is that the asset that you buy now over time is going to appreciate at 4% per year. Now, let's for a second think about, for the most part, most of our buyers are getting a loan. Some are paying cash, to be sure, but most of them are getting a loan. And the most common thing that we see, we'll just say, is 20% down. I know we've got some FHA loans and some 5% conventional and all that. But even taking a larger down payment, meaning 20%, are you getting 4% appreciation on your 20% down payment? No. You're getting 4% appreciation on the purchase price of the house. So your leverage in real estate, as it is to multiplying your net worth, is far beyond what you can get anyplace else. And on a historical average of 4%, meaning that in any 10-year period over the course of ever in the United States, A home today will be worth more 10 years from now, no matter what. Any 10-year period, even going back to the Great Recession, going back to the Depression, back through every piece of real estate 10-year periods. Any home is worth more 10 years from now than it is today. And on average, that goes up 4% per year. So I'm just going to pause for a second and just dot this I really fast to say this is that if a buyer is thinking, I'm going to buy this home and I'm going to sell it a year from now for a profit, you may want to give them a little caution around that. Because really, none of us know where values are going to be 6 months from now, 1 year from now. But meaning it could be worth less a year from now. It could be. I don't think it is. Of course, every market's a little bit different. Every price point's different. Every neighborhood's a little bit different. There's sections of our market right now that are still moving super fast and some that are pretty quiet. So a year from now, the house might not be worth more, but if history repeats itself as it has forever and ever and ever, 10 years from now, that house will be worth more for sure. And on average, it's going to go up 4% per year. In the long haul, real estate is a fantastic investment. Not only is it going up in value, you're paying down your principal every single month. Right? You take a loan of $400,000, and I don't even want to go through an amortization table today to show how little principal you were paying in those first X amount of years. But with every mortgage payment you make, that principal balance is getting closer to zero. So you have an asset that's going up in value over time, and the loan that you took on it is getting smaller and smaller every month, thus creating more and more wealth over time. Now, I'm not an accountant, and I don't suggest that you use ChatGPT to become your CPA or the CPA for your clients. But there's also tax benefits for home ownership as well. And I won't dive into that because I'm on a recorded line and I'm being broadcast around the world on the social medias. But I would say have your folks consult with their professionals, their CPAs, their accountants, their tax preparers on whatever tax benefits may be afforded to them owning a home compared to renting. Or perhaps buying a home and taking debt against, instead of owning an asset free and clear, taking some debt against a house and having an interest payment that you're making every month. Those are the logical things to share with people. Logic. So I should have said this from the beginning. I'll say it now. Is that logic makes people think, but emotion makes people act. So it is important to share about wealth. It is important to share about appreciation. It's important to share about how you pay off a loan over time and all those different things. Because education helps people to make decisions, to make informed, confident decisions, to be sure. But we need to really lean in on the emotional side of things. I was in a conversation yesterday with our team, with our sales team, and we're just kind of sharing stories around this. And some of us in the audience today probably are renters, or if you're not currently a renter, you once were a renter. And I just think back to those times which you just never quite feel at home. When it's not the thing that you own, when you're renting it, that term pride of ownership may not apply to you, right? You're not as likely to take care of the backyard. You're not as likely to maintain the house. You're not as likely to decorate it the way that you would, because there's no sense of permanency of being there. I think back about 11 years ago now, we're going back to through the Great Recession time frame. We lost all of our houses to short sales. We had five houses. We short sold 4 of those, and for multiple years we rented a house. The house was fine. It was convenient. It was close to the schools for the kids. But none of us ever felt like that was home. It was just a place that we were living. We didn't really care about keeping it up. We didn't really have an investment in the neighborhood. And once our credit improved and we had saved up the down payment and we bought the house that we're in now, man, there's just that sense of pride came back around our asset. So we know that there's an emotional benefit there. One of the guys on our team was sharing that he fell into that category where he owned a home in Sacramento where he had that 3% interest rate. And he was one of those guys that sold his house, sold his 3%, got rid of his 3% interest rate to double in rate to 6%, or probably even a little bit higher at the time, and to go up in purchase price. Because the area that he moved to, the home that he bought, was such a better fit for his family. He was living in a rougher section of Sacramento in a neighborhood where the kids couldn't really play outside, where there was homeless and gang activity and things like that. And move to an area where they're on a cul-de-sac and there's kids in the neighborhood and they can play outside and the schools are safe and they can go to the park. And their life has just changed. Their family dynamic has changed. They were willing to give up the low payment and the low rate in order to be in a place where he could feel proud to raise a family and feel safe around them going out and hanging out with their friends and being outside. And I'm not talking about trying to manipulate emotions, but what I am saying is that when you can tie a real life story, either your own or it's one of your clients, or it's a story that you've heard otherwise, about someone who has felt the emotional benefit of home ownership, and you can tie that to the client that's sitting across the table from you, it may take away some of that friction then and get them into moving, into motion again. Not only can you tell them a story where someone had a great example of an emotional win, sometimes that loss is the same idea. And maybe you have this same story about that house that you wish you would have bought. Maybe there's a house that you drive by on the way to work that you look back on saying, by gum, I wish I could have bought that one for $200,000 and it's now worth $600,000. I could have bought that one. I could have had that one. And that regret because either you didn't make that decision or somebody else, grabbed an opportunity. I mean, shoot, for us guys that have been men and women that have been around here for a while, how many of y'all wish you would have bought a bunch of houses in 2011, 12, 13? That house that now sits at $1 million that you could have bought for 400. At the time where I was letting my homes go to short sale, what if I would have been a little bit wiser with our money and our finances and been cash heavy at that point so I could go in and buy some of those opportunities? So you can tie emotion both to the positive and to the negative. And when you can attract their heart, you can get them to move again. And the last thing I have on the screen is just this cost of waiting calculator, because there are those people, and I am one of them that would say, Scott, all of this sounds good, but show it to me. Prove to me how this really works. So we've got this tool, and I'll drop this in the chat here as well, and you guys can go to it. Different people, there's multiple versions of this, but this cost of waiting calculator. I just want to give this simple example on here. Just you can take this on a buyer consultation with you. You could pull up this URL and just have it ready to go. I know some of the title companies have this built into their apps as well. But I just want to show you an example, a real life example on here of this true cost of waiting. So let's just take a purchase price. Our average price for our team this year is $750,000. Well, I'll use $700,000. And let's say that particular buyer is going to put 20% down on the house. I know rates vary from day to day and different programs, different rates, but at least for today's purposes, let's just all agree that today's interest rate is 6.5%. I know it could be higher. I know you could buy it down, but let's just go ahead and say that for today's purposes, rates are 6.5%. Your cost to get that mortgage There's 1.25 points in order to secure that loan. Again, I know that fluctuates, but just for the example purposes, we'll use 1.25 in here. And let's take that historical average that homes go up 4% per year. And the last assumption on here says is that your client has told you, I'm going to wait until rates hit 5%. So right now we're at 6.5, but they're going to wait for rates to drop 1.5%. Well, in that example, here's what their cost of waiting looks like. Buying now versus buying just 1 year from now. Is that the home that they could buy today for $700,000, if it appreciates by 4%, is worth $28,000 more 12 months from now. Their down payment has gone from $140,000 and climbed to $145,600. They're taking a $22,000 higher loan by doing so. Now, by waiting, their rate went down because their rate went to 5% in this example. And so their monthly payment went down by $414. It cost them a little bit more to get that loan. That's the $280 you see here. And then here's your rate information. But here's the deal. And by saving this this perceived savings of $414 per month, it's going to take them 7 years to recoup what they lost in the appreciation and the increased down payment. All right. They're saying, I want to wait, I want to save, I want to wait till the rate goes down, and then I'm going to get in. Cool. Well, it's going to take you 7 years to make up the amount of equity that you lost by saving $414 per month. Okay? Put that right in front of their face so they can see a real life example of what their scenario is. Now, we can manipulate these numbers, not manipulate like in a bad way, but manipulate them to tell the story differently. Let's just say appreciation is only going to go up 2% during that time frame. Let's say that they're just waiting for the rate to drop 1% from 6.5 in this case to 5.5. Well, it's still going to take them 5 years to get whole on that waiting. They're going to save themselves in monthly payment about $300, but $300 divided into the $16,800 that they lost, it's going to take them 5 years just to get back even with that. Okay, so you can mess around with these numbers, change the down payment, put in the purchase price that they're actually looking at. But now they have a tangible tool in front of them that you as their real estate professional or mortgage professional has provided them that they can mess around with on here and get some clarity about what their real situation is. Now, I'd be remiss in saying, okay, but Scott, because I can see Mike's eyes lighting up, if rates do go from 6.5 to 5.5%, they could just refinance, which is 100% right. And you could say, okay, well, maybe there's some loan fees associated with that refinance, depending on their mortgage professional. Maybe there's no loan fees attached to that refinance. So there's always the opportunity in the future to potentially lower what your monthly payment is based upon the rate at that point being lower than what today's rate is. But even if refinancing was never going to be an option for whatever the reason happens to be here, you still have this example. Because here's the way that I think about it is when you take a mortgage, the bank has taken all the risk for it. And here's what I mean is that today you lock in a rate at 6.5% in this particular example, and your monthly payment is, in this case, $3,540. For the next 360 payments, your mortgage payment is never going to be higher than $3,540. But the bank can't change your rate. The bank can't change your terms. Your principal and interest payment is never going to be any different than $3,540 for the next 360 months. But if rates drop by 1/4 point, a 1/2 point, a full point, 2 points, you as consumer always have the right to say, I don't want that loan anymore. I want to get myself a different loan. I want to fix my payment to a number less than $3,540. You as consumer always have the right to do that, but the bank can never make you pay anymore. So I want to try to keep us on time this morning. So here's my kind of call to action for this morning is simply this, is based upon this information that I just shared, is who in your pipeline needs to hear from you on this scenario? Who's that fence sitter that you need to call today and refresh with them? If you have someone in particular in your pipeline right now, maybe you just need to write a quick blog or record a quick video that would cover this content as well. Put it out on your Facebook, put it out there to the world, put it on YouTube, TikTok, all the different things, and publish a little content behind it. And I would encourage you to think about either your own story, a client's story, or a story that you've heard that would tie emotion to both someone who waited and somebody who took action. Because those stories will resonate with folks and get them moving in the direction that would really best serve them and best serve their families. So we'll leave it there because it is 8:30. Gosh, I'm good at this. I'm getting so good at timing this thing. So that's it. I'll be back next Wednesday. Hope everybody had a great Wednesday. No, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys coming in. I hope you got some value from today's conversation. We will, I put that calculator in the chat if you need it. We will put this recording up on our Facebook page here. I've been asking every week, if you have not gone in and just liked or started following our Coffee with Scott Facebook page, please go in and do that. That would mean the world to me. And if you need to follow us on Instagram to kind of see what we're putting out there on socials and others, feel free to take a look there. And if you have any comments, questions, or if you want a future topic to be covered, let me know so we can continue to bring the value you guys want here on Wednesday mornings. So until next week, coffee shop's closed.
Bye.